It's been a while since I did one of these. I don't think there's much need for preamble other than here are 10 songs that I've liked that have come out somewhat recently. Here they are.
Are you the one who's been standing outside of my house when I'm alone?
Hounds in the Abyss is a single off the forthcoming solo album from Daughters vocalist Alexis Marshall, and I didn't really know what I expected when I heard that this guy was working on a solo album. For some reason, and I don't have a good explanation for it, that usually seems worrying to me, as though the absence of a band and others' input would cast a light on the weaknesses of a single creator, but this is a really strong start and shows that this guy's energy and creativity are just as prevalent on his own. This is 6 minutes of paranoid lyrics sung in the slurred and distressed manner that borders on spoken word that I've grown to love.
I am the one phoning my mother's home and hanging up.
There's also some strange kinda found object sounding percussion and this ringing feedback running through the whole thing. It all adds to the ominous tone. Someone should really check on him, make sure he's alright, because it sounds like he might have a gang stalking problem. Morning Star, once again, is a single from a forthcoming album. This time it's the sophomore album from American doom metal project King Woman. Big fan of this band, as well as most things their vocalist, Chris, not even gonna try your last name, was involved in, particularly Miserable. This track, I want to make some attempt to analyze and distill what I enjoy about it into something that's informative or interesting, but it's just sort of like a certified fucking banger. It's been stuck in my head since I heard it, especially the repeated refrain throughout its tragically short runtime. It's a fantastic performance, it's a fantastic video, and just the fucking aura radiating off this woman is powerful. Seeing the progression to here from their first EP, Doubt, is really emotional, because as the title suggests, it is sort of about deprogramming yourself from religious brainwashing, which is difficult, it's fucked up, and to now see her dancing around as Lucifer, it's incredibly endearing. Undoubtedly one of the coolest album covers in music history as well.
Swallow me
Eyes for You is a track off the debut album of one-man industrial project Grand Folly. This was less something I knew through association with other bands or record labels and more a completely chance encounter on the internet. I mean, I saw the album cover and I wanted to know what that sounded like, oblivious that listening to it would activate some kind of time vortex that brought me back to 1995 or something. So I've listened to this whole album a few times, and there is an unavoidable fact about it, but before I say that fact, I would like to express that I think the writing and production on this album is insanely impressive. It's all very well done. So I don't mean to be reductive when I say that this sounds, on certain occasions, near identical to Downward Spiral era 9 Inch Nails, and I only say this because you can't miss it, and it's so close that it would be weird if I didn't say anything.
There were parts of you that I would never burn, and there were parts of you that I could never learn.
But for what it is, I think it is enjoyable, and its creator is clearly talented at multiple things, and I'd like to hear where this project winds up on further releases. Again, I feel like it would be in poor taste for me to recommend this if you are a fan of 9 Inch Nails, or maybe it wouldn't be. Either way, yeah, I would do that. Well, this came out of fucking nowhere. I've long been a fan of English metal band Code, and how difficult it is to find them on search engines because of their insidious name. This is their first full-length album in 6 years or so, and it's pretty strong. I've always appreciated the unpredictable, sort of avant-garde nature of their writing, but how they always manage to maintain the catchier and more accessible elements of black metal, which sounds weird to say. I mean to say they still got tight riffage, tight blast beats, but they also got this vocal variety. This track in particular shows off this like dizzying vomiting of verbiage. Just a lot of lyrics going really fast, with some lines being said in unison with other voices, some in that trademark black metal wretched raspiness, and others in this almost crazed, I don't know, carnival barker sort of voice, or a crazed street preacher. Someone crazed. Reminds me a lot of what A Forest of Stars sometimes gets up to. Very theatrical and grand. I love metal that is just wildly experimental in this way, and you don't get it very often, so there is this reassurance that comes whenever I hear stuff like this, or the previous mentioned bands, or, I don't know, Subterranean Masquerade or Thy Catafalque, where it's just like, oh, okay, good, somebody still wants to make shit like this.
Half-life of my toxins, difficult to calculate.
Have I brought up the Mountain Goats in any of these videos? I feel like they are the most out of left field band that I enjoy, like enough that I've seen them perform live. I guess it's just odd that I don't like much that is peripheral to them. You know, I'm not a big folk head, but there is a quality I've noticed to them where they often cross over to a lot of fans of other genres like metal and darker things, perhaps because of the lyrical content and themes that John Darnielle often writes about. There's a lot of drug abuse, alcoholism, divorce, violence, and depression to be found in their music. This one obviously leans in on that a little harder with its title and allusions to being a metalhead. The Slow Parts on Death Metal albums is a track off their 20th full-length album. The band has gone on long enough that they have songs that are like self-referential to some kind of Mountain Goats universe.
Dozens like me, never quite free.
But this is just a strong single, and I'm excited to hear the rest of the album.
Why do you say that to me? You're my beautiful.
Plastic Beach, Moss of Aura remix. Another sort of left field favorite band of mine is Future Islands. Also seen them live, and it was one of the best shows I've ever been to. Sam Herring broke his microphone 3 times by the sheer force of his dancing, which I think he was prepared for because he just sort of motioned to someone off stage and they ran out and handed him another mic. Anyway, I had originally put together one of these videos like late last year, and I never went through with making it, but a track from this album was on it, and I'm cheating my own game here because they released a couple remix tracks from that album, As Long As You Are. This one is remixed by Moss of Aura, which is actually just the solo project of the band's synth fucker. It's a great mix of an already lovely song, and if you're not adverse to some passionately sung synth pop, then the album in general is worth a listen. This is a bit of an odd one, not because of the artist, but because of the source of this single. So firstly, Chelsea Wolfe is an amazingly talented singer-songwriter. Love most things she's done. Hard to cram her into a genre box, but there's hints of doom metal and shoegaze, industrial and neo-folk and all of her work. There's lots of good stuff. So I couldn't have predicted that she'd wind up on the soundtrack to a comic book with a song produced specifically for it about Wonder Woman. If you're not a big comic book fucker, I gotta find another crutch word besides that. Dark Knights is a Justice League crossover series where the Justice League essentially discovers a dark timeline. It's openly schlocky and distinctly DC. For some reason, the only thing people want to do with these characters is like have them kill people and say fuck. But the previous run of Dark Knights also had a soundtrack that wasn't nearly as star-studded as Dark Knight's death metal. Lots of names on this one, none of which are death metal, but what are you gonna do? A lot of this soundtrack interests me. It's got Idols, Show Me the Body, Health, Karak Angren, which is a very fun goofy metal band, but that's just like, you know, a track from their last album, and all their albums are incredibly like narrative focused concept albums. So I guess only some of these are made for the soundtrack. Anyway, the Chelsea Wolfe song is great. She's great in it, as usual. And I like the sort of warbly effect the guitars run through that makes them sound all bent and detuned. It was produced by the composer Tyler Bates, so it does have a cinematic quality to it, a grandness. I'd say it should be in a Wonder Woman film, but, you know, not any of the ones we have. That I feel like that would be a disservice. Rope Burn Exit is a track off the 9th album from American black metal and folk and bluegrass and country band one-man project Panopticon. This guy just doesn't miss. Another winner in the books, another dynamite LP that sold out before I could buy it. But I'm not bitter. Once again, Austin Lunn, the dude behind this, takes the darkness and ferocity of black metal and adds all these uplifting and organic qualities to it. There's a melancholic beauty to much of it, but also the tight riffage you'd expect. I'm just deleting tight riffage from my vocabulary. The Tiny Man Is Here, aside from being a name I can't seem to say without smiling, is a track from the 5th release from UK-based hip-hop and electronic producer Slugabed, which is titled We Have the Window Open at Night, which is far from the length of his previous album, but it's close, and I love me a long title. I'm not too sure what draws me back to this guy's work. There is a nostalgic quality to it, and a comfortable, wholesome, inviting quality as well, amongst a lot of glitchy eccentricity. Most of what he puts out is good accompaniment to writing or studying or what have you, or just preparing for a tiny man to visit you.
Don't you cry 'cause you gon' hurt yourself. What's the fucking
Run is a single put out by New York-based experimental metal band ZEAL and ARDOR, the first output since last year's Wake of a Nation EP, which was a powerful album, as well as a deeply political one. And even though this track seems lyrically more back to business as usual for them, I can't help but see it through the lens of that and the state of politics in the US. Either way, it's a really intense song with some ghoulishly fun lyrics and his repetitive growl running through it that makes it seem all the more hellish and provides some sense of tension. Like this dude's just a snarling beast looming over prey. Also, it goes without saying, the riffage is pretty sick.